In this video I want to demonstrate the fun and importance of experimenting in your garden so that you can achieve better results and a better harvest. Welcome back, friends, welcome back to the homestead. So since I started gardening about 3.5 years ago when we moved here to Latvia, I've approached everything with an open mind really. And tradition, I guess, went out the window, and I started experimenting and asking questions, asking why about everything. Why do we do it this way? Why has it been done that way? Why do we have weeds? Why do you say I can or can't grow something here? And I guess questions like that really. These questions led me to experiment, and I've been experimenting ever since. I've got some experiments on the go now in different parts of the garden, and I'll show you those in a moment. And but first I just want to talk a bit about the experiments themselves and my approach. So for me there are two types of experiments that I like to carry out. Firstly, there's the kind of binary outcome, which is will it, won't it, and will it, won't it grow, will it, won't it thrive. And it's just a case of trying something and just seeing if it works. And the second type of experiment is more of a comparative type experiment. So this is where we start looking for improved results and the best way to grow something in your own context. And I'll talk about, again, context a bit later. So in this kind of experiment you'll have two or more versions of the same subject, and then you would subject that to different variables. So in terms of growing, it could be different places, different sun, different feed, different compost, soil types, different waterings. There's a lot of variables that you can subject something to in order to get results and outcomes and find out what's best moving forward. So okay, now we've got the basic idea of how it works. Let's go and look at some experiments. But make sure you stick around to the end of the video, because I'm going to then tell you why you shouldn't listen to what I say. Of course, listen to what I say about experimenting, but not necessarily my results, because and I'll tell you why at the end, why it's important to do your own experimenting and enjoy that time as well.
Okay, so the first experiment is a binary one. Will it, won't it work? Traditionally people grow sweet corn in grid format, and allegedly to help with pollination. And the alternative is to grow sweet corn in single line, which apparently is not good for pollination. Well, I wanted to approach it differently, and so I've kind of combined the best of both worlds and come up with this offset single line setup, where you've not got two rows and you've not got a straight line, you've kind of got both. And then I've grown the sweet corn in the duck shed leaf mold compost, which it seems to be thriving in, and we'll have to wait to see how much sweet corn we get and how good the pollination was. So second experiment is one with one variable, and that is what is the best mulch to grow potatoes in, from the mulches that I've got available here. And you can see clearly one row is absolutely thriving in the mulch that it's sat in, and one row is not doing so well at all. Again, we'll have to wait and see what the outcome of that is, and I'm going to be covering that in a separate video as well in terms of the harvest yield. So this next experiment was about taking the greenhouse, which is normally just used in the summer for growing tomatoes and peppers and things like that, like you can see now, and then rethinking it as a place to grow cold climate crops earlier on in the year, so getting an extra succession of food. Was it possible to do that in our climate, in our context here in Latvia, where the winters are -30, the springs are very cold, and can the greenhouse give us enough protection just to get some early crops going? So it's worth an experiment. And it was an experiment I started a couple of years ago, and I've repeated again this year and had great success. And the answer is yes. As a result of experimenting, we found out we could grow extra crops, a succession of crops earlier on in the year, things like pak choi, spinach, leafy greens, kales, lettuces, and even some early carrots, radishes, stuff like that. And so we had lots of nice early crops that we could use to eat earlier on in the year, whereas normally the greenhouse would have been left dormant and waited for the tomatoes to be planted in. And so it's, you know, so much better for the soil in the greenhouse to have something growing in it, and all the microbes, you know, having jobs to do and having a bit of a party in there. So, you know, a well worthwhile experiment. So this next experiment is what you might call an A-B experiment. Which one is better? 2 rows of popcorn, sown at the same time, transplanted at the same time, fed the same, watered the same. The only difference is that the group on the line on the right hand side has got mulch on the ground. They're all mulched around the stems from the grass cuttings and weeds which are around that area. And you can see there's a big difference in the coloration of the leaves. Clearly the row on the right is receiving a lot more nitrogen, and those nutrients are clearly more available to it. You know, exactly, I can have a guess as to why that is, in terms of the mulch stopping evaporation and allowing more water to be around the roots, and so it has better access to those nutrients. I don't know exactly, but it's an experiment, and we can see clearly the results of that experiment. And certainly for popcorn, sweet corn, and these are grown from seeds, so just bought from a, you know, popcorn, what you buy from a supermarket for popping corn. An experiment in itself, and they did germinate. But you know, it justifies the use, I think, of, you know, clearly see the effects of using mulch on the ground. Okay, this experiment is one in terms of experimenting with spacings for onions. And for onion sets, the spacing is 10 centimetres and 5 rows within my kind of market garden row type setup. And, you know, got some good results here, got some really healthy looking onions. These are my seed onions, and I've experimented with different spacings here. Got multi-sown versions there, so clumps of 3 and 4s across the row, and, you know, trying to get a feel for, does it affect the sizing of the bulbs, and it's seemingly not. Here's some singles, and no real difference between the sizes. So clearly we could even have some better spacings, maybe even go for 6 across for singles. We'll wait and see, but it's worth experimenting with different spacings rather than just blindly accepting what's on the packet, because the packets might not be the best for your situation. Okay, so this last experiment was a simple will it, won't it work, so a binary, and I had a go at growing sugarcane here in Latvia. Sugarcane is a crop more associated with warmer countries, and I just thought, for a bit of fun, you know, could you grow it here in Latvia, and will it produce any sugar? Well, the answer is yes, you can grow it. Okay, it doesn't grow as thick as in warmer countries, but it did grow, and it did produce sugar when we cut it open and chewed on the fibres in the middle. Then they were very sweet. It was a very pleasant sweetness.
Okay, so now I've shown you some of the experiments that have been going on here. Why should you not listen to what I say? Well, like I said earlier, listen to what I say in terms of experimenting. You need to experiment yourself, because my context is not your context, and it's important that you experiment in your context. So your location will be different to mine. Your soil type could be different to mine. The resources that you have available to you could be very different to mine. And you know, resources are an important one, because you need to be sustainable in what you do. You just can't, I'm not really about going to buy stuff from a shop and then you being able to repeat that, the same product. I'm about using what I've got around me, and that won't be necessarily the same as what you have. Physical ability, in terms of what you can and can't realistically achieve in your context is also really important to consider. And of course your climate is likely to be different to mine. Even across Latvia there are microclimates and different climates depending on where you are. So that's why you need to go and experiment yourself. So I hope you found the video of interest. Let me know about your experiments in the comments down below. I'm really keen to hear what you've been doing and what you plan to do in the coming year, I guess. As we, it's August here, so most of the growing season has gone. We're into our autumnal planting now, and I will be experimenting more with my autumnal planting and looking to improve my results for the coming year. So anyway, I hope you found the video helpful. Give us a thumbs up if you like the video at any point. Do subscribe to continue listening to our journey, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye for now.